Well, I actually hear that's not a quote from the game, but it could be because this is Hylics 2 Any% Normal by LaurieDBunnykins. When you're ready, take it away.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hylics 2. My name is LaurieDBunnykins. And yeah, this is the environmental block, all right? This is surely an environment we're in. Um, Hylics and its sequel that I'm playing today. Hylics 2 is an entirely animated through stop motion clay and hands.
Oh, there are certainly hands on
There are certainly
screen.
hands. It's a very wacky game, but it's also a lot of fun. And the speedrun is pretty flashy, as is everything involving this game. So I'm not going to waste any time taking us through it. We're going to get started in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good
So
luck.
yeah, this game's visual style is absolutely unique, but the gameplay itself is going to be taking place on a kind of simple we have an isometric world map here and turn-based combat. So I'm not going to be doing too much turn-based combat, but there still are a good couple fights we're going to do. We play as Wayne, and our goal is going to be to stop. There are a few people trying to revive Gibby, the first game's villain, and that's not. We don't want that. So we're going to try and put a stop to that. Um, we're actually going to get into a major skip of the run pretty early, um, 2 in a row, but I do need to get there first. So there are a few things I need to pick up. The palace in the top right of this main city here is where we're going to get our first party member, Pongorma. And Pongorma gives us the ability to do an air dash, which is incredibly helpful because of how fast it is. We also are going to use the mini crystal for the first time here, which is a sort of soft lock prevention item. The movement in this game is not very limited. You kind of have a lot of options with where you can go on the geometry and with your movement. So they put in the mini crystal that either lets you warp back to the last loading zone you went through, or just back to the starting point of Wayne House, which is going to be very useful because the main fast travel method of this run is actually not too fast, or in the game rather. So we're going to opt to just kind of warp between places when we have to. But coming up on the first big skip here, I'm going to pick up the third party member, Desmond, and he's going to give us a paddle for this boat down here. And we're going to go to the jail cells in the palace here. So I'm going to make a quick save in case this goes wrong. Pretty much, usually in order to save the king from the main city, we have to go all the way up this tower, fight a boss, unlock a door from a key we get from that boss to hit that button you see, and that button opens the jail cells. But I can just jump over the jail cells, thanks to a little bit of geometry on those stairs, and that skips the entire first boss fight of the game. So, as I mentioned, pretty quickly, we're already getting into some pretty big stuff. And after a cutscene coming up here, we do have another skip. But I have a few things to do before I get through that cutscene, because I've talked about the combat. It's turn-based, but I haven't actually explained a little bit more about that combat. Hylics 2's combat is incredibly focused on status effects. Almost every move in the game, either from a party member or an enemy, can and will apply some sort of status effect. So a lot of the skills we get, the extra skills in the game, will also just give us more status effects to play around with. To get status or to get skills in this game, or gestures as they're called, we need to watch TVs. And this one, Soul Crisper, is one of the best in the games. It lets us light enemies on fire. In fact, it's so good, it's the only extra skill we're learning. Every character comes with their own character-specific skill, and we're going to be using most of those. But as for universal skills, that we can unlock, the only one we're going to be getting is Soul Crisper. And when you unlock a skill through that method or a gesture, the whole party learns it. So now anybody can set an enemy on fire. And now we have a cutscene. Basically, after Gibby was defeated in the first phase, a small part of him split off, and the king here buried it up so it wouldn't be found. But someone is currently in the process of finding it. So while this is happening, if we have like one quick announcement, now's a good time.
All right. Well, once again, we are raising funds for Point of Pride, and we did get a donation a little before the run started. $5 from Leaf, who was excited. They just say, loved the event. Well, thank you so much, Leaf. We love your contribution to the event. And that brought the total we have raised for our Banjo-Tooie bonus game up to $373.70 raised out of $500. You only have about 3 more games until we need to meet that. So make sure you select that incentive when you donate.
All right, and coming up now, the end of that cutscene, we have our other big skip we're doing in the early game, and this is actually the first use of a pretty common technique in the run called mini crystal jumping. So that mini crystal, I mentioned one of the options lets you warp back to your last loading spot. If you save and load the game, you can actually warp back to wherever your save point is before you go through another loading zone. So if we just put it really high in the air and then land on the ground and then use the mini crystal after loading that save, since we like put ourselves airborne without jumping or like running off a ledge, the game takes a moment and is like thinks we're still in the air, and it allows us to jump out of midair. And in this instance, we use it to jump over the invisible wall, blocking, and the wall in general, blocking the treasure vault, which allows us to get some really good gear and a lot of money to buy more good gear in this shop down here. So we're going to buy 2 of these gloves, the pleather gauges, and basically the goal with them is we're just going to move really fast. If I put all of these on, you'll see all of them have like a speed bonus to them. And that's really what we're looking for, is just the ability to move before basically any enemy in the game with those equipments. So the combination of speed and status effects, most of these enemies are going to go down without a problem. Kind of. The bosses are still pretty tricky in this run, but we'll get to them when I have a boss fight. For now, I'm heading over to the island here in the far left. This is an RPG. You have an airship. We like just got it from that cutscene earlier, but it's going to be our main way of traversing the overworld from this point. I need to make sure I also get my health up to full, which around this game are these bugs you can slap, and they'll give you Flesh and Will, which is your HP and MP. So this is going to be our first fight. You may have noticed when I worked back to the house after doing Viwax skip, the first boss skip, I used the bathtub in Wayne House, and that gives all of the party members I have at the time a status effect called Clean. As you can see, my characters, except for Samsnosa, the character I just picked up to help with this battle, they're sparkling and shiny. That makes it so I'm immune to status effects for a few turns, which is really helpful because this enemy on the right, the Ectrolin, as you might have been able to tell from the beginning of the fight, when I hit this thing, it uses poison spores, which is a counter attack that puts everything on the field to sleep. So, since our characters were clean, they didn't get put to sleep, but like all of the enemies did. So we don't have to deal with them at all. Unfortunately, like the fire dude on the the dude on the right lives by 3, but the fire does kill the enemy in the middle. The enemy in the middle is super annoying there. It essentially puts up a shield that won't go down until you hit it. It does no damage when you hit it, and then it counterattacks you. So that is a really annoying fight. And then I need to do a little bit of equipment here. This last character we got, Somsnosa, actually has one of the least useful. In fact, for this run, it has the least useful character-specific skill. And she's also not necessarily the best at any specific stat. She's a really good all-rounder. So we're going to give her the fastest gear, and that way she'll kind of be able to set up for the other characters to blaze through the bosses we're going to fight. Because that enemy fight is actually, ideally, the only normal enemy fight we'll get in this game. And the only other fights we're going to do in this run are boss fights. Being of boss fights, we're headed into the worm pod here. So basically, a character named Adozier is working on trying to revive Gibby, and his palace is in an area called Foglast, which is surrounded by a giant force field right now, and we need to take that shield down, which requires defeating a giant worm that is like guarding the shield controls. So once I make it through this very wild maze, which I've made it through here, I just need to go up this way, and we're going to get into our first boss of the run and the second boss of the game. I'm going to drop a save because this boss can be kind of mean, and you will see why in a moment. So this is there you go. You read the enemy name at the top. I don't know how to pronounce this name. And our goal here is to just get our damage over times up, our status effects, and start moving. So I'm going to explain 2 character-specific skills in this fight. One of them you've already seen is Pongorma's Lightning, which I'm about to use right now. It's a super strong attack. It does 175% of your attack power, but it leaves Pongorma stunned, meaning that he can't do anything on his next action. The other one I've used is Wayne's Dissolution, which I used on his first turn, which is another damage over time similar to Burning that actively lowers the enemy's attack by a little bit if they're affected by it. Now, as you can see here, the boss here, in the second phase, they'll put us to sleep, and then once they reach a certain health barrier, they'll get a new status effect where they get angry. This fight actually went really well. We want them to use the AoE attack because that way they'll wake everybody up, and after we do a round of damage here, the damage over times will leave him with 1 HP. Okay, he didn't do his AoE a second time, so we can take out the last 1 HP here. I didn't expect him to survive that, but hey, we got through the fight first try. That's really all I can ask for. So yeah, that fight can go pretty bad because if he does not do the AoE 100 kicks, he won't wake everybody up, and his single target hit can pretty much OHKO a party member from that point, from like the point of health that they're at in that fight. So if you're not lucky, you can just very easily get your whole party OHKO'd while they're asleep. And there's not really too much with this route that we can do to mitigate that. But like the status effects get kind of messed up when Angry is activated. Angry is activated at a certain health point, and it makes his attack stronger. Because that, I think, can reset Fire, but it won't reset Dissolution normally. And normally, if he doesn't kill Wayne after he wakes everybody up, we reapply that one because that'll keep it up. But you don't always need to keep the fire back up. I'm not 100% sure how it works. And again, it led to him living on 1, but we don't have to worry about that. We made it through. And we're going to the third area here, Foglast, which has another pretty big skip. So I'm going to use this NPC here to full heal. And usually the point of Foglast here is that there are a bunch of shields we need to deactivate to get a key to raise a drawbridge. That's right up here. There's also an enemy right here. I need to make sure I go around it. There we go. So right up here, there's going to be a drawbridge. Usually we need to like run around the whole area to grab a bunch of keys to activate this drawbridge. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump on top of this terminal, and I'm going to do another mini crystal jump. So I'm going to save, load, and then land here and use my mini crystal. Jump out of the sky. And if I did it right, I should be able to make it here perfectly to the palace. So we're already pretty close to the third boss here, or the second one we're fighting. But there are a few things I need to do in the basement. First off is grab this equipment. Tendril Hand is just a really high damage glove, so it's really good. And then hit this switch so we can actually gain access to the boss. And then I'm going to do a quick equipment swap here to give Desmond some more will and Pongorma some more damage. All right. And with that, I'm going to just get a few heals here because I changed some equipment around. I think 3 enemies should be enough to get myself to full everything. Yep, all right. And now it's time for the next boss. We're going to be fighting a Dozier. We're going to try and stop him from reviving Gibby. But he also has this other vessel with him named Carcero. I'm going to drop another save here before the fight. So this fight, it has a really interesting mechanic where Carcero, as you can see, starts the fight wrapped in this like defensive shell. So pretty much that defensive shell, he can't take damage, but if you hit him, he'll get unwrapped. And Dozier, the guy on the left, will have to re-wrap him. And that'll take his turn. Like, that uses the turn. So there's kind of a dynamic here where which one you want to attack first, the benefits of, who you keep alive. We're mostly going to target Carcero at the beginning here. You're also going to see Desmond's signature ability, Foam Armor. It heals, increases max HP for a little bit, and it prevents from a few status effects. Okay, that's pretty good. Desmond is a pretty good target here because Desmond is actually the weakest party member we have just from an attack stat point. Really good defensively. The older route of this game, we would get an ability called Charge Up, which would allow characters to use a stronger version of their character-specific skill. And the charged version of Foam Armor is really good. But we don't get that in this route, and it honestly makes a lot of these fights harder, because with the increased health you get from Foam Armor, it would make a lot of these fights pretty much possible. But now Carcero's done, so we won't have to we won't have a Dozier wasting his turn unwrapping him or rewrapping him every time, but now he can do his own attacks freely. And he has some pretty annoying ones here. This one in particular is really bad. Whatever character he squeezes, okay, well, that one's just dead. If a character is squeezed and they stay alive, they do basically no damage. Dozier, as you see, also has Pongorma's lightning attack, which leaves him stunned as well, but it basically just deletes a party member. And then there was Temporal Wasting, which he did on Wayne there. And that one, it makes the move last in the turn order. That's what the lagging status effect does. So that was actually a really good fight, because that can go really badly depending on who Carcero hits early in the fight. But Desmond is like the best ending. So now Gibby is reviving, and we're gonna get put into a forced loss fight, followed by like a full minute or two of cutscenes. So if you have any announcements, now is another great time.
Oh, absolutely. I've got a stunner of an announcement here. We have met our bonus game 2 for Winter Pride. Friends, we will get to see Banjo-Tooie later this event. Thank you all so much for raising $523.70 towards that. I'm amazed. Of course, that means we have opened a new target for you all. Virtual Highlight will be run later in this event. Right now, the category is any percent fixed seed. But if we meet our goal of $750, we will upgrade the run, and MechaLink will be forced to run all dungeons instead. So, once again, that's a new target you can put your money towards. And speaking of putting your money towards, we're so close to $5,000 that I have to do the math here. We're under $18 away from having raised $5,000 for Point of Pride this event. That's amazing. Thank you all so much. I see we still got a little more time in the cutscene, so I'm just going to go ahead and read some of these donations. We got $150 from Anonymous. No comment, but thank you very much. Botulism Sauce sent in $25 and said, "Hooray for Weird Games! We're so close to 5K. Let's go!"
So here I'm in the afterlife. So this is like a big mechanic in the game. When you die, you go to the afterlife. And this is where you use fast travel. This is where you also get health upgrades, which I'm going to do up here. When you kill enemies, you get meat, and you can grind the meat here to upgrade your max HP. So like a few really important things to do in the afterlife, but the only time we ever go here is because we're required to after that forced death cutscene. But now we're gonna head right back out. And in that cutscene, as you can see, a lot has happened to the world, but basically Gibby is fully revived, and we have to stop him because he kind of wants to destroy the world. And hey, we live there. So we're heading to the final stretch of the game here. And I just need to hop in my airship and go all the way up. All the way. So I'm going to land down here, and this is going to be the final dungeon. The final dungeon has a few notable strats in it that I will explain as we get to. The first one's going to be happening pretty quickly. So usually, the structure of this dungeon is that you have to go all the way up the dungeon to drain a pool, and then go all the way down to that pool, and then once you use like the hole in the pool you've drained, you can get to this switch to drain the pool at the top of the dungeon. We use a little bit of a soft lock prevention method where if you're like squeezed against a wall, if you're squeezed against a wall in midair, the game will eventually kind of force you into a grounded like state in order to stop you from being stuck in the air. And we use that to our advantage to climb that wall that I was just doing. And get up to a pretty late part of the dungeon pretty early. So now we can do a small mini crystal jump here to just skip getting a key. And that'll put us in the top half of the dungeon. I'm going to do another save and load here, not for a mini crystal jump, just for like a mini crystal like manipulation where I can work back to that spot now. I'm going to go into the reservoir that I drained early and grab the vessel room key. And then I can warp back to my spawn point, which is my save point. And now I just have to go up this big bridge up here, and we will be able to unlock the door to the final boss. So that's like, again, a really big dungeon that we just kind of didn't do anything in. But I did mess something up. Is the enemy going to be mad at me? Oh, they're mad at me. Okay. I just need to find... I mentioned earlier the like bugs in this game that you can slap and get your health back. At certain points in the game, there are certain NPCs, such as these corrupted ones after the third boss, where if you slap them, you get all of your health back. So I had to kind of kite that enemy around so they didn't get me while I was getting my health back, but we're all good. I'll drop a save right before the final boss, but funnily enough, this boss is actually like the most consistent in the run. I might eat my words, but the strats are very very set in stone there. So this is Gibby. First thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to give him the dubious berry, which poisons him. It heals you for 40 and it poisons you, and you can eat it yourself, but we just give it to the boss instead. So the deal with Gibby is, as you can see, every time we hit him, he's going to spawn a minion. This is annoying. So we kind of use his attack patterns to our advantage to try and avoid this. First thing of note is that the minions don't attack on the turn that they spawn in. So we're going to come right back to our party member's turn after Gibby attacks. And the other thing of note is how many minions are on screen right now. So the thing about Gibby is a lot of his attacks, I don't know exactly how this works, but a lot of them have a health threshold to them that will stop you from just getting instantly killed. So we actually don't need to heal anywhere as much as you think in this fight, and that allows us to very easily manipulate what attacks Gibby will do. Because here he does his full AoE Killer Trees, and Killer Trees, as you can see, it instantly destroys every one of his minions on the field. When he has 3 or less minions on the field, he's more likely to do his single target attacks, such as Tear Down, that you saw turn 1. And if he has 4 or more on the field, which the maximum he can have on the field is 6, that's when he's more likely to do Killer Trees. So we're going to use these full heal items I got, Cloud Germs. They're a full party heal, as you can see. And the thing about the Cloud Germ, or the thing about that is, since a party member is not attacking Gibby on the turn that we use the Cloud Germ, he is not very likely to do Killer Trees on those turns. So we can pretty easily get 2 turns without needing to heal. And this will eventually lead to, at the end of the fight, we will... the last attack he should do in the fight is Killer Trees. And if the last attack he does, usually in this fight, if you defeat Gibby, but there are still enemies on the field, you will have to defeat them. But if the very last attack he does in the fight is Killer Trees, and then you kill him before he spawns any more minions, you won't have any to defeat. So that's the big cycle here. And you can see that, like, Oko prevention help that's in the game. Dedesmond surviving 2 of the final boss's attacks with 5 HP, despite the fact that the last 2 bosses, like, Oko'd him. And so he's still alive, and he can use the second Cloud Germ we got. You might have noticed when I was draining the pool early in this dungeon, I picked up a pot with a Cloud Germ. The other one we got was actually from defeating a Dozier. He just drops one, guaranteed. So that's actually super helpful for this run.
If I could just get your quick announcement in, we also smashed that $5,000 goal just as much as you were smashing through this fight with Gibby.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. That's a lot of money for Point of Pride.
It is. Thank you all so much for your generosity, and also you are killing this fight as far as I can tell. So keep it up, Laurie.
This fight's really funny because in the old route, I mentioned the old route where we used charge foam armor. This was like the only luck-based fight. Every other fight was basically guaranteed except for this one. With the new route, this is like the only easy fight in the run. Obviously, you can get a little bit unlucky because he's not guaranteed to do the attacks he wants, but we got it here. So we're not going to attack him. We're going to use Pool Wine, which we got from one of the first fight. The first fight we did in the run had a Pool Man, which gives Pool Wine, which puts a party member into Mania, where the next attack they do is supercharged, but then they get like a bunch of debuffs on them after they use that attack. You can see Pongorma is now asleep and like poisoned, but also Gibby is dead. And that's the last fight of the run. Time's not going to be quite yet. We do have a little bit of gameplay after this cutscene here, but that is like the last fight of the run. So as you can see, yeah, the castle is exploding.
Was it made of his minions all this time?
I'm not sure if that's what this is implying. I think that's just debris.
Oh. It is
But
a very distinct art style.
it is. That's true. So we're just gonna go down here, and time is gonna be there's gonna be a button at the end of a bridge or like a path, and time is gonna be when I hit that button. This bridge is really hard to dash on, so I usually just tend not to. And time.
GG's.
That was a really good run. I was practicing yesterday, and like every boss took me 3 tries. So I'm really glad.
You slammed through it. Would you like to know your time as we have on
Uh,
screen?
sure.
29 minutes and 6 seconds.
That's really good. Sub 30 is really good. I currently have the record at 27 minutes 42 seconds, so I was only like a minute off there. Um, which, yeah,
Wow.
no, that's all I can ask for, I think. That run went about as perfect as I could have hoped. So, a few quick shout outs. I am not a very social person, so I haven't talked much to people in the Hylics 2 community, but the people I have talked to are super cool. Shout outs to them. They just kind of also love the game, and that's always a really fun environment. I also want to shout out the original Hylics community. I've never run the original Hylics. I've played it. It's a very good game, and you should play both of these games. Um, but the original Hylics was made in RPG Maker. I have a very long history of speedrunning RPG Maker games, and you cannot run an RPG Maker game without running 5 and also knowing people who run 5 million. So shout outs to the Hylics community and the wider RPG Maker community. If anyone from any one of those is a fan of this game in particular. And speaking of this game in particular, I would love to shout out Mason Lindroth, who made literally everything. After the end of this cutscene, you're going to see the credits. Mason did quite literally everything for Hylics 1 and quite literally everything but some of the music in Hylics 2. Incredibly talented. I don't know how else to put that. So massive shout outs because these are two of the most unique and interesting games that I've ever played or seen, really. And it was all put together again by one dude, with the exception of someone who helped with the second game's music. So shout out to them for making these incredible games.
An
And
incredibly succinct credit screen.
yeah. And thank you all so much for having me for Hylics 2. I hope you enjoy the last day of Winter Pride. And
What, real
yeah,
quick, Laurie, where can people find you? Like, you've done some amazing runs. You did Purgatory yesterday. You've done Hylics 2 today. And if people want to find more of you, where can they?
so you can find me Twitch, LaurieDBunnykins, Blue Sky, also LaurieDBunnykins. That's mainly where I am. I'm not even mainly on Twitch that often. I'll stream once in a while. I think my Twitch recap said I streamed 5 times this year. So maybe we'll get 2 hands worth of streams next year. Only one way to find out.
2 hands. What a beautiful way to put it. And what a beautiful run. Thank you again, Laurie, for that fantastic run of Hylics 2. And congrats on the sub 30. Chat, our environmental block continues. We promise the next couple of environments will be a little more like the kind that you think when I say environmental. So stick around. Maybe grab a quick drink, grab some snacks. You got to take care of yourself too while you're at it. But stick around because Winter Pride 2023 continues. All right, folks, I hope you've gotten your nice stretches and snacks and drinks ready. That was that was a run of all time just now. Hylics 2 by LaurieDBunnykins. We are continuing our environmental block here. Coming up, we've got Abzu by Soulmass 218, and getting ready on deck is Terra Nil by Dan the VP. I do want to get in some of those donations I wasn't able to during our last run, because speaking of Soulmass 218, they donated $25 to say, I love cute penguins, but we gotta play with the blue whales. I'm not biased, I swear! And that's right, Soulmass 218 is running Abzu right after our next run, and one of the options we have that you can donate towards is a blue whales versus penguins bid war. And with that donation from Soulmass, Blue Whales is in the lead, $25 to $10 for penguins. But if you want us to swim with penguins in Abzu, all you gotta do, $16. And even if you can't donate $16, you can donate a minimum of $1 on our Tiltify campaign. That's right, just $1. When you go to !donate or donate.powerupwithpride.org or click the handy links on our stream panels below the screen, that will take you to our Tiltify campaign. Go ahead, select a poll option. In this case, let's say you're going to go select penguins because you don't like blue whales, which, you know what, fair and valid. And then go ahead and click on targets and select our virtual highlight category upgrade target, because with Tiltify, you can donate to both a poll and a target with the same amount of money. Then head on over to checkout. Feel free to leave a comment for me to read for you. And then when you move on to payment details, you can select a donation amount. They have preset in there $10, $25, $100, $500 if you're feeling generous, or you can click other and enter as little as you choose. The minimum is $1, but you can also put $1 and a couple of cents if you'd like. That's why we have a total of $5,002.70 raised for Points of Pride right now. So go ahead, if you're able to, please make a donation, select an incentive. All of it is going to the fantastic cause that is Point of Pride, which is, again, a trans-led nonprofit organization benefiting trans folks all over the world by providing access to gender-affirming health and wellness services. Now, I did mention we'd had another donation, and that was a $20 donation from Arborelia. No comment, but thank you so much. That actually kickstarted our virtual highlight target because that $20 did go there. Again, we have to raise $750 to get there.